New mask, same task.
Who would have thought that Iron Man was almost back in the MCU? That too in the most unlikely manner. If Deadpool and Wolverine's several proposed cameos had succeeded, then Tony Stark was expected to pull a cameo that would leave fans with mouths wide open. But just as quickly as it was lit, the idea was extinguished immediately. Why did Robert Downey Jr. say no to an opportunity to play Tony Stark one more time and to make a cameo in the Deadpool and Wolverine film? Alright, imagine it for a second. Deadpool, one of Marvel's most beloved characters and the universe's finest anti-hero, was finally going to become an Avenger. He has the suit and the attitude, but let's be honest, seeing him struggling to blend in with the rest of Earth's mightiest heroes would be hilarious. Now, the writers of Deadpool and Wolverine, the extremely talented Rhett Reese and Paul Wernick, had this stellar idea. They wanted Deadpool to walk up to Tony Stark and begin campaigning to be admitted as one of the Avengers. Consider what it'd be like just to watch these two bicker. Deadpool is an unconfined absurdity, while Stark is collected and smart. It would have been comedy gold. But it was not just about having funny people in the show. Deadpool's star and one of its main creative minds, Ryan Reynolds, was more than on board. He even contributes to creating the particular scene where Robert Downey Jr. will appear once again. Reynolds understood that if he returned Downey as Iron Man, even within just a short scene, people's minds would be blown. Merely the anticipation is enough to pack theaters. But then there's the twist. Robert Downey Jr., one of the most sought-after actors of the period, turned down the role. Coming off as Tony Stark, the actor declined the offer to wear the Iron Man suit one more time. It's not like Downey wasn't willing to return to the MCU in the first place, though. He was, but not as Tony Stark. The real bombshell, he's coming back as Dr. Doom. Well, that is true. Tony Stark is out now, and Dr. Doom is in. Hold on one moment and let that register. Downey as Dr. Doom is a total novelty. Quite the opposite, it is a role that is as far removed from Tony Stark as can be. Doom, as you know, is not a hero. He is one of the main Marvel villains. A villain that is a ruler and a genius, a character who can only be described as multi-layered. Doing so doesn't mean Downey could simply show up as Stark without sending the whole MCU into a spin. Well, as has been the case with everyone, we never got to see Stark interact with Wade Wilson. The writers had to adapt, but that scene now left is still one of the MCU's tantalizing what-if moments. It also wasn't just about getting laughs when the writers imagined the scene in which Deadpool encounters Tony Stark. It was about achieving a nice middle ground between Deadpool's silliness and the actual Tony Stark character. Stark is, in fact, the very heart of the entire MCU. Arguably, his transformation from a billionaire philanderer to a selfless hero was the essence of the entire generation of Marvel movies. Reese and Wernick knew this. They sought to produce a humorous scene, yes, but more importantly, one that was in keeping with everything that Stark was all about. They drew this near-silly scene in which Deadpool would be absolutely out of control as a counterpart to Stark's dry, slightly annoyed demeanor. It was a wink to the audience, which would have been a nice way to pay homage to the OG while at the same time preparing the character for what awaits him in the MCU. Some might say it bore the usual fashion of a passing of the torch. However, the real wake-up call comes. There was always Downey's Dr. Doom on the horizon, and when Downey said no to the cameo offer, the writers slowly realized that having him return as Stark, even for a blink of an eye, would strew confusion in the MCU. The last thing they would have wanted was to cause everybody to think they're switching gears or to lessen the mean weight of Downey when he plays Doom. Well, what did we get instead? Surprisingly, even though Tony didn't make the final cut, they retained the scene in which Deadpool tries to sell himself as an Avenger. Yet, turning it down is not Stark, but Happy Hogan. Now, if there's anyone who could do justice to Stark in this scene, it is Happy. Happy has always been Stark's right-hand man, the guy whose presence makes everyone somehow feel calm and confident even when the world is crumbling, portrayed by Jon Favreau. In the final version of the movie that emerged, Happy is the one to tell Deadpool about the Avengers' lack of interest in him joining the squad. And then Deadpool delivers his answer punchline in the usual Deadpool manner. But wait, there's more! The writers did not limit themselves to the character of Tony Stark. The fact is that they considered the idea of inviting all the original Avengers for one shoot and having them in a single scene. I mean, could you imagine the scene? Deadpool is in front of Hulk, Black Widow, Hawkeye, Thor, and Captain America, and all are prepared to bring him down. Of the various alternate scenes, there used to be a bit where Peter, played by Rob Delaney, could lift Thor's hammer. Yes, the same hammer that only the worthy can use. That would have been a golden, over-the-top moment that perfectly captured the chaos Deadpool brings to the table. But as hype as that sounds, it was just way too much for the writers at the end of the day. To bring back all those characters to feature in a single scene would have been quite a logistical nightmare. Besides, it could have potentially eclipsed the plot that they were aiming for. The dangers superseded the benefits, and in conclusion, this grand concept was never realized. But now let's focus on what Downey's absence signifies. Tony Stark cannot be discussed in the same way as any other character, the sole character who sparked the creation of the MCU. As the enigmatic, egotist billionaire Tony Stark transformed into the universe's savior, he has set up the new road for other stories in the MCU. By not bringing Stark back in Deadpool and Wolverine, Downey is sending one message: Stark's story is done. It is time to move on. And this is huge for the MCU. It means the franchise is ready to evolve, to bring new characters and new storylines while avoiding repeatedly looking back at the past. And while we may yearn to see Stark on the screen, it's thrilling at the same time. It creates opportunities for fresh starts, new heroes, and of course new villains such as Downey's Doctor Doom. Officially, the MCU is shifting forward, and Stark's disappearance is the first stage of it. And now it's time to turn to Doctor Doom. If you're a comics fan, you understand that Doom is not some random villain. He is perhaps one of the most complicated and imposing antagonists of the Marvel multiverse. He is a king, he is a mastermind, and he's just as likely to outmaneuver foes as to overpower them. The MCU has always been about more than just individual heroes. It's about a universe of interconnected stories. There is still more to come, and one can already imagine the fascinating stories to be told in future series with characters like Doctor Doom.